Seth Jones has been at the topic of many conversations this year amongst Blackhawks fans and the rest of the NHL. We thought we'd make a video discussing what his future could be like for the Blackhawks. Much conversation has been had about whether he's solid, whether he's good, whether he's absolutely horrible. And that's what we're going to be talking about and breaking down here in this video. But quickly, before we get into that though, we noticed that 83% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're looking for a spot to get all your Blackhawks news as it happens, you're in the right spot. Hit that sub button. It means a lot to us, and you will not miss out on any of the Chicago Blackhawks news. But we need to discuss, like I said, Seth Jones. This season he has played in too many games, obviously, due to the injury he had. But his tenure with the Blackhawks has been a bit mixed, I guess, amongst fans, like we said, and amongst other NHL fans, analysts, everything. And we're here to kind of break this down, discuss what really could be the issue, whether he has one, what he's thriving at, what he struggles at, and, you know, all about this. But first of all, I'm just going to pull up his chart. The old good J-Fresh hockey chart. You know, this is the best thing to get if you're looking for a player's breakdown for the simplest in-depth stats, if that makes sense. And this is before this season started. So, you know, right here you can see just off this, Seth Jones is by no means having a bad year. He's very, I would say, talked about due to his contract, but on the ice, you can definitely notice when he's not there, which was very obvious when he was injured with the Blackhawks. But, you know, pretty good offense, solid, like, okay defense, good on the penalty kill, all right in the power play, but he just don't score as much. You know, you don't expect many goals from Seth Jones. But, Noah, what do you think about Seth Jones, just, like, briefly here before we get into all the in-depth stuff? Obviously, he's a big part of this Blackhawks team on the ice, the leadership, so what do you think?
Yeah, well, he brings a lot to the team. Obviously, there's very little, well, I guess I wouldn't say very little veteran presence because, I mean, they do have some guys, Jason Dickinson, but, you know, I think he brings a lot to the team. You know, he's been in the league for a while. Obviously, the contract situation we're going to discuss in a little while, but I like what he brings. He's an alternate captain. You know, he's a good veteran guy, good locker room guy. So yeah.
Yeah, no, like we said, the contract is the big issue that I think many people, including me partially, is the issue with Seth Jones. $9.5 million for the next 7 years, and you know, this is third season, 7 years including this one. That is a lot of money, and I think that was a lot of money that they paid for him initially, knowing the role he was going to have. I'm sure they didn't know they were going to be this bad going into, you know, that signing of Seth Jones. But right now, you know, it could be much worse. They could be in a much worse contract situation because of Seth Jones if they had, you know, a lot of players that are playoff-worthy players and stuff like that. But where they're in a rebuild now, they're barely at the cap floor. This is a perfect contract for him at this very moment. Now, I'm not saying 5 years down the line it will be, knowing, you know, the cap's going to go up, but there's also might be a bit of cap issues with the Blackhawks regardless. So that's going to have to be, you know, kept in touch. But Noah, what do you think about the contract? Because obviously there's a lot of money, especially for today's NHL. But down the line, we know Gary Bettman has said, you know, all the higher-ups in the NHL have said that the cap is projected to go up, and it will be going up $4 million this year, which is huge. So what do you think about the contract?
I guess I'll state the obvious. He's not worth $9.5 million. I mean, we all know that. But I think what everybody kind of looks at is like everybody who isn't a fan of him and who doesn't like him is like, oh, they're paying him $9.5 million, yada yada yada. I think if he was, you know, 6.5, 7, even 7.5, I think he'd have a totally completely different idea around him. Like, I mean, everybody would say, oh, he's solid, this and that, but I think the contract is just kind of like what everybody looks at for him, and it sucks because he is really solid, and I mean, you know, he brings a lot to a team. We've seen that in Columbus. I mean, the guy was logging almost 30 minutes a night most nights for Columbus. So I mean, I don't know. I think if he was making even like 7 million, I think he would be, you know, looked at completely differently.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You know, a lot of this contract situation for Seth Jones is the reason that he's getting the hate he is. Thankfully, we haven't seen it too much recently because, you know, I think when he got injured, a lot of people noticed that he actually does have a major impact on this team, even though it might not seem like it when he's playing. But I remember watching those first few games when he left with injury before Christmas. You could tell that this team was missing a big piece on defense, and that, you know, that was very hard to fill, and it was proven. You know, when all those injuries happened, they could not fill that specific hole that Seth Jones once had. But you can see by his stats, he's currently has 99 with the Chicago Blackhawks. But the main thing to notice is here, with the Blackhawks, look at his plus-minus. -37, -38, and -8 this season. Now, a lot of people will be like, yeah, that's bad. You know, he's a bad defenseman. No, not the case. His entire tenure with the Chicago Blackhawks, he has had pretty much nothing, especially last year.
Hmm.
You could see the difference last year in points with 37 compared to his first one, 51. Not that big of a gap when you think about it, but for a defenseman, that is a few. That's a good amount of points. So when you see that 51 and 78, that's a very solid offensive season for his first year with the Blackhawks. And last
It
year,
is.
we know what happened. That team was horrible.
Yeah.
That was painful to watch, and yet he still, put up half decent numbers for a team like that. That the situation they were in, and it's only going to be getting better and better here from here on out, I would say. And that's the big part though, is that he's never really had a team with him while playing on defense. He's paired up with Alex Vlasic a lot this year. That's a very good mix. I really enjoy that. The offense of Seth Jones, the defense of Alex Vlasic, that works out very well. That's but he don't have that player that he can always rely to get the puck in the net, get the puck down deep in every situation.
I think if you look at what was over in Columbus, even he was a positive over in Columbus, but he was playing with Zach Werenski most nights, so I do believe over in Columbus.
Yeah.
So and even there, his plus minus, but I think maybe one or two of those years, I think Columbus was a contender, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But even still, they weren't that great of a team over in Columbus. So and he still put up really, really good, plus minus numbers. I'm a bit I don't know what to make of the plus minus numbers. Like you said, obviously Chicago being a really, really bad team, obviously he's going to be a minus, and on a really, really good team, he's going to be a positive. But so I'm does it really determine if a player is good or bad in terms of defense and offense? But I don't know. I still stand by my statement. I think Seth Jones is really good defenseman.
No, he is. Yeah, he is. Yeah. I don't think there's any denying that. The contract definitely, limits the amount that people think about him, his worth, his value on the defensive side of the puck. But like I said, the biggest takeaway from this is when he was out with injury, there was a major gap that was needed to be filled that just couldn't, because you noticed he was not there. And one final screenshot I have here as well is just this stat right, or this chart right here on Hockey Reference is the comparable, career of Seth Jones with other defensemen. You have some very solid names there, like Matthias Ekholm, Ryan Ellis, Ally Frady, Morgan Riley, Hampus Lindholm, some of those guys, notable NHL names nowadays. None of those guys are really bad at all. Obviously, you have a lot more offensive than defensive there, but that's how Seth Jones is. He's more of an offensive defenseman, not scoring-wise, but he'll get those pucks. He'll get the primary and secondary assists whenever, he's feeding that some of the puck, but it's a noticeable difference when he's not there.
I got one more thing too. I guess it's kind of I guess I'll ask you a question. This is different than what we usually do, but do you make that trade with Columbus for, I think it was Adam Boqvist and David Jiricek? I think it was the pick that was David Jiricek, and I think there might have been something else involved in there, but I think they were the main two pieces. Do you make that deal now?
It's a bit of a different situation. Right now, those two would be, prime age. They would be around, what are they, 25, 24, 25, 26, around that age. Obviously, David Jiricek is younger now, but Boqvist was already a set determined player. It's kind of a different situation because where they're in a rebuild now, Seth Jones is a more of a leader than those two guys would have been. Seth Jones has been around the NHL. He's been on the Nashville Predators, been on the Columbus Blue Jackets in all different kinds of situations. So allowing him to be on this team, having another veteran presence like they're extending Nick Foligno and Jason Dickinson for, sure. I think it's more important that they have this, knowing they were going into a rebuild, knowing that Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane wouldn't have been there long term to guide these younger kids into the rebuild. Because when these guys get older, like Connor Bedard, Lukas Reichel, Kevin Korchinkski, the names that we've always been saying for the rookies and the younger guys on this team, Seth Jones still will not be an old player when they start to be, not in their prime, but entering their prime. So he'll still be, the experience he has, but more addition to it, and just be, once again, another leader. And I can see him maybe even becoming the captain when Nick Foligno leaves, if Nick Foligno does become the captain next year, which I do think he should be. He will be. Kyle Davidson, Luke Richardson, if the odd chance one of you guys are watching this, make it happen. We want to see it, but... I think that trade is kind of determined from what they knew was going to happen eventually. Not at that specific time. They were looking ahead to the future to try and make Seth Jones, the leader for these younger guys on the team.
Well, I think they kind of acquired him at the tail end of Taves and Kane
Yeah.
sort of tenure, right? So I think they were trying to make one last push, and obviously it didn't work. I think they got eliminated by Edmonton in the bubble, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm
Something I know
yeah.
they got eliminated by Edmonton.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I
if it was
can't
the bubble
remember.
or not. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
yeah,
still make the
you're
trade.
right. I think it was fully dependent on the future. They kind of had to change something up, knowing that likely Taves and Kane would be not on that team much longer. So
Yeah.
having too many prospects, which they do have plenty now, and a lot of
True.
picks, that I think they need to move it for something. And I think Seth Jones is the perfect option at the time. I think it still will be a very good move down the line when we go farther into this team. The younger guys get developed and everything. I think this will be it'll turn out good, I guess you could say. And I think Seth Jones still is a very good defenseman. He gets a lot more hate than he deserves, but I do very much understand that contract is a big part of it. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Obviously Seth Jones, a big topic amongst Blackhawks fans, and I just want to know what you guys think of him. So if you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Let us know down below what you think about Seth Jones. But that's all we got. We're signing out. Thank you for watching. See you later.